Join us as we share our experiences, strength, and hope. When the world says, give up, hope whispers, try it one more time.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Sharing Our Stories. This program is all about addiction and recovery. We bring in a guest each week to talk about their struggles with addiction and where they are today in their recovery. My name is Slim, along with Nani Al-Jalil and Thomas Hernandez over there, and our guest, who is Bob Schulz. And thank you for being here with us. Thanks for joining us once again, and welcome back. Good to see you guys again. Been forever.
Been forever.
It has. It's been forever. I mean, and since I last saw you, I've celebrated another year of recovery. I'm at 7 years now.
Beautiful.
I just passed my 7th year.
Congratulations.
All right.
So, I swear, but when was the last time I seen you guys? Like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, man.
It's been a minute.
Everybody's been going through a lot of things, man. Shout out to your family and the things that you've been going through. We love you. We just want.
Well, thank you. I wasn't going to put that out there for everybody because, you don't want to oppress everybody to start off the show. But my father passed away mile high, and I miss him. I love him. He was a Vietnam veteran, a father of 3, an amazing man, a lover of so much, a proud Puerto Rican, and my dad. And I miss him. I'm named after him. I'm the 3rd, named after my father and my grandfather. So that's why I haven't been around for a minute. And
no, I didn't mean to put it out there, man. It just
it's okay.
We go through things, and like. The good thing that everybody, the listeners, need to know that you did it sober.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
you did it clean. Yeah. You used your support. You answered the phone. Mm-hmm. You used all your tools that a lot of us in addiction don't. Mm-hmm. And my hats are off to you, and especially with the 7 years. Now, is that 7 years of sobriety or your green card?
It is 7 years sober.
Okay, I just
got my green card in '93.
Okay.
All right, Mahai. This is Sharing Our Stories. Nani, how you been?
Been good. Glad you're back.
Yep, well, thank you. Give me a hug. Give me a hug. All right. Yep. This, by the way, Mahai, if you're watching us live, the left side of the table, me and Nani, this is the happy side. The right side of the table, Tomas and Bob. It's the angry, mean side. Okay? And
it's the before and after shave.
They're the ones that talk all the crap, and we're the sweet, loving ones over here, right?
That's right.
All right, yeah. All right, so we're going to jump in and get started today. You catch that one? You catch that?
We did.
That's
we
a joke
did.
for
All of
everybody
us
there.
did. All of us caught that dad joke.
All right, that's an inside joke for the program. But get started here.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Oh, you didn't catch the joke.
No.
I was right away.
I was too busy worrying about not getting beat up.
Oh, yeah. All right.
It.
So Tribe Recovery Homes is expanding to Sin City. But I want to talk about Tribe here in Denver real quick, Tomas. Do you have beds available right now?
We do. We have our rotating beds always for parole. We have it for probation. Anybody that has a pre- and post-incarceration, please call us. It's at 720-608-7423. That's 720-60-TRIBE.
Where do people have to be in their recovery to come into a Tribe home?
You just have to be willing. We're going to figure it out with you. We're not going to block you because you came in the door high or whatever like that. But you got to understand, you come in the door high, we're going to take you to the hospital and get you balanced. We're going to just let you frolic around the whole organization just loaded. But, you just really need to know that when you come to Tribe that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you want help. You know what I mean? And it's for you. It's not for your kids. It's not for grandma, wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, trying to find a place to stay. And maybe it is trying to find a place to stay. And maybe you have all those things in your mind subconsciously. Maybe that's what you say to us at the beginning, but just know this. Deep down inside, you got to know it's for you.
You got to want to get sober. You got to want to get clean.
Yeah.
And if that's what you want, there's a bed for you.
Absolutely. And just know that, that bed you get, there's 10 people behind you that want that bed. So give it your best shot.
But if you mention Sharing Our Stories, you'll move to the front of the line.
Definitely. It's like that Willy Wonka, golden ticket that he just put out there. It's amazing.
But seriously, we do want to take care of our Sharing Our Stories family. So in all seriousness, mention Sharing Our Stories, and
absolutely,
they will help you at Tribe Recovery Homes.
Please do, because you know what? The ones that come from this show, it makes it all worth it. It's caring for Denver, Sharing Our Stories. Max Media, let me just tell you, man, I'd just love to give that gratitude out to Max Media, because they're just a beautiful, beautiful broadcasting company that just I've been around for a while in the entertainment industry through different things, and I've never actually seen any broadcasting company support.
No, this is a good company.
Yeah.
This is a great radio station and company that has allowed us to be very honest about addiction and recovery, and to talk to our community and to really try to give back to our community in a conversation about getting sober. And I don't know of another place that's willing to do that and give us this platform. So yeah, I applaud Max Media for that. I also applaud Try Recovery Homes and Nani and Bob, because our guest today is Bob Schulz from Oregon, and he also works for Try Recovery Homes. And he's going to be the person to share today his experience with addiction and recovery, and let you know that recovery happens. And, these stories aren't always easy. I got a small rundown on some of the things. And, there's relapse, there's DUIs, there's highs, there's lows, there's, probably moments where you don't think you're ever going to get clean. And then, you know what? We get to the point where he's sitting here in front of us today, and he's ready to tell you guys where he's at. So our guest today is Bob Schulz. From Oregon.
And let me just add one thing. I'm one proud executive founder to have Bob aboard. You're talking about an individual that meets you right at the front door of a jail. That right there on a nightly basis. He is going to have the empathy and the understanding and the resources to meet you where you're at.
So Bob works at the jail for you?
Yes. He works right there. As soon as you get released and you're looking for your phone call, you're looking for a ride, whatever, you're pretty much blown out with a clear bag and a yellow or pink piece of paper in your hand, walking out that door, Bob's going to stop you and try to help you and try to get you to the right place. And he does that on a daily basis. This man works countless hours. We have to tell him to go home. You know what I mean? And it's a great attitude. It's just, I'm really, really proud of you, man.
Thank
and
you.
I'm really, really blessed to have you part of this whole movement that we got going.
Appreciate you. Thank you. My actual name is Will Schulz, but people call me Bob, and I'll get into that at some point.
That's a crazy flip. I've never thought of it.
I know Bob is not short for William, but and I am a person in long-term recovery, which for me means that I haven't had to use a drug or alcohol since October 9th, 2019.
Was that like a crazy tattoo that you're supposed to get Bill and then you got Bob, so you just went with it in prison?
No, I don't even remember. I mean, these are all Lee Press-on tattoos. They're not even they're Sharpie. They're just all Sharpie. I'm 45 years old, and I'm coming up on celebrating 4 years, but no fronts, right? I'm real close. This isn't my first go around with recovery. I grew up in a troubled home with, alcoholism runs in my family, which it does, which is something that we've noticed is a pattern for people. Not always, but it is for me. I learned very young. I was born in Oregon. Didn't really know my dad. I lived with my mom, who was my biological mother, who was struggling with substance use disorder. And so at 10 years old, the family decided it would be best to find my dad and for me to go live with my dad, which that was here in Colorado Springs. And so in 1988, I moved out here in 5th grade, Colorado Springs. That was the stable home, the alcoholic was the stable home compared to, and he'd be okay with me saying that. But that was the stable home compared to the addict home that I lived in. So I came out and things were great. I got to rekindle this relationship with my dad, who, what boy doesn't want to do that, right? Mm-hmm. But I had some things, going on. I didn't really fit in. Never felt like I really fit in. Before I moved with my dad in 5th grade, I had gone to like 17 elementary schools. Some in Oregon, some in Oklahoma, things like that. My mom was very much a transient, not homeless, but like we were very much on the move. And so it was pretty crazy. Moved out with my dad, and, we didn't have a lot of money. My dad was self-employed, and he did the best that he could. But when you're in 5th grade in 1988 and there's this basketball player named Michael Jordan, and all of the things going on with shoes, right? And people getting killed for shoes was a big thing, and whatever. We had a $20 shoe budget at Payless every year for school, and that led to fights. I was made fun of. I was bullied because I thought I was so cool, man. Had like the Jordan 4 Jordashes, the Jordache 4s, if you will. They look like the Jordan 4s, and I went to school, and somebody made fun of him, and I decided to break his glasses on his face, and I got suspended from school in 5th grade, and then came back, and I went home and lost the fight at home, and went back to school and beat the kid up again and got kicked out again. And so that was kind of the when I look back on it now, and I'm able to see the anger that I had at such a young age, and the irritable and discontent, right? The 12-step that I go to talks about the irritableness and discontent, which is the symptoms of my disease, is that uncomfortability and not feeling comfortable in my own skin. So, that's just kind of how it went. My dad was self-employed, and I started working at his business so that I could make my own money, so I could buy my own darn shoes. And, and things like that changed. We moved from...
So I think you don't like Jordache.
No, jeans or like the jeans look good on women.
They do.
They do. Like but the mom jeans thing, I can dig it. But so then we moved from like the east side of Colorado Springs because I continued to get into fights because I didn't really fit in, and so we moved to the west side of Colorado Springs, which demographically I felt more comfortable on the west side of Colorado Springs. That people were more laid back. It seemed like things like that. And to kind of the caveat to that was, in Oregon, where I lived in Oregon, I had never seen a person of color in person, only on TV. And then here I am going to a school on the east side of Colorado Springs where I was one of the only kids that was one of the only people that wasn't of color, right? So it was an adjustment for me, and I wasn't racist or anything like that, but like I just... they were much quicker to want to fight when things didn't go well for me. And so they didn't go well. So anyways, we moved to the west side of Colorado Springs. I kind of started to fit in a little bit better, started buying my own shoes, like LA Gears and British Knights at the time, which were like the $35 pairs of shoes, but they weren't Payless shoes. So things started to get better. And then I was able to go to school from the same group of kids from 7th grade till I graduated high school. Holmes Junior High in Colorado Springs, and then Coronado High School. I was like, throughout that whole process, like things were not the best at home. My dad was dealing with substance use disorder, and so things were up and down quite a bit. And I never thought, I was like, oh, I'm never going to drink. My dad, that's a big thing. And, I don't really know much about drugs or any of those things, right? But then I turned 16 and had, bought a car because I'd saved up money working with my dad, but right before I turned 16, I always looked older. So my dad and I went out. My mom was away, and we went out to a bar in Colorado Springs, and it was the first time that I ever drank. So here I was, almost 16 years old, and drinking with the guy that I was scared to death of. I was so scared of him, and I so wanted him to like me and to just be my buddy and to be my friend. And here we are drinking buddies, right? And it was college night at the bar that we were at, and so like part of teenage boys stuff, like. Here we are, and these girls thought I was of age, and they followed us home. My dad smartly locked himself in the room, and here I was, my first experience with 2 college chicks, right? So I was like, holy shit, this is the greatest thing ever. Not only am I drinking with my dad, like, we're cool, like, not telling mom, and da-da-da-da, and then, like, and then porn's real, right? Two girls at one time, like, holy shit, like, this is the greatest day of my life, right? And it really wasn't, but at the time, at 15, almost 16 years old, I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And I didn't like the way that it made me feel drinking, so marijuana came into the picture, and that was much cooler, much better.
But you still like the girls.
Oh, what? Still do?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Got this God-sized hole inside.
Yeah,
of me. I
it's
still try
amazing.
to fit.
Like,
with
I
as
still
many-
remember
Yeah,
this
yeah.
night. Like,
Yeah, it's like the first time
this is
doing
the
coke.
fond
You just kinda
memory.
chase that high every time.
Still, I never, dude, it doesn't matter if it's this big or this big, right? But, so, like, I started smoking marijuana, because I didn't like booze, like I really didn't. And, and then I would work with my dad, right? And so it was like I'd go to work with my dad after school, and he'd be like, "What are you, high today?" And it'd be a day that I didn't smoke weed, right? So I'm like, I need to smoke weed every day, because the days I do smoke weed, he leaves me alone, right? And so, like, this just started to just create this whole thing for me, right? And my dad was drinking, and he would drink, we leave work, and he would buy beers on the way home, big tall boy, 24 ounce, whatever, Budweisers, and drink them on the way home. And, he'd hand them to me to toss the empties out before we got home. He'd be like, "Don't tell your mom," right? So really, again, at 15, 16 years old, I learned that it's okay to hide what I'm using. It's okay to not tell mom, right? Like, this is how it works. My dad and my stepmom, she's my mother. She's every bit of a mother, and she's a saint. I love her to death, and I'm so grateful for her to be in our lives. They're still together, like since 1988. They've been together. What's that? 35 years? Holy crap! 35 years they've been together, and so again, this was things I saw. I was like, oh, you could be this way and still be married.
Smoke and mirrors.
This is what a relationship looks like. This is what I learned, right? That learned behavior. So that, went on. And then, I moved out of my parents' house and in with a girl, and, that didn't work out. So then I moved out of the girl, in with a buddy from high school, and found drugs. And I was like real drugs, like not marijuana drugs. I'm like, oh shit, what am I been doing? Marijuana sucks. Like, this is, I have arrived, right? It says in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the 12-step program I go, it's like, there's a story in there where the guy's like, I have arrived. And that's literally how I felt. The same weekend I did my first line of cocaine, real meth, not this crystal crap that's out there now.
And by the way, I love that I'm an NA guy, that you were totally talking about drugs and Alcoholic Anonymous. So all you big steppers out there, that's for you.
Well, it's part of my story, like I don't have it twisted. Like, I'm an alcoholic first and foremost, but drugs brought me to a bottom much faster. And the things that I experienced on drugs were much more severe. Potentially alcohol could be much worse, but it never got to that point. But so it is a very valid part of my, again, I hated alcohol. Like, I watched it destroy, and, explaining that I caught an elbow at, playing basketball, at school, instead of what really happened. My dad was really hands-on, there for several years. And I didn't want to be that guy, and I was never, and I have never been that guy. I've never been my father. And I love my father, and I'm very proud of him today. He's very proud of me. We both came a very long way in our relationship. And so I'm not here to talk about, try to make him feel bad, or try to make it about him.
Duly noted.
My choices are what led me to using and things like that. My mom pulled me aside at a young age and said, "You know what? I recognize things in you. You should be very careful using these substances." I will never forget the day that she said those things. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Right? Yeah, whatever.
It's that gene pull thing, right? It's like, it's in your genes. You got it in your blood, and then you kind of negotiate with it. Like, is it a good thing or a bad thing? You know what I mean? Because my dad's pretty cool. My cousins are pretty cool. You know what I mean? So is it, what am I going to do with it? Maybe I can make it cool. Maybe you think it's bad. Maybe I can redo it and make this thing happen the right way.
Yeah, it's those God smacks, right? That's what it's called. I get hit with a 2x4 in the forehead and be like, oh, what was that? Okay. oh, here comes another one, right?
It's like that Tommy
don't-
Boy thing. Remember, it hurts right here and it hurts right here. But
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. But so I'm grateful, and I want my family to know that I am super grateful for everything that happened the way that it happened, because if it wouldn't have happened that way, it was supposed to happen that way, or else it wouldn't have, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't hold any resentments towards my parents or my dad or my mom or anybody in my family for the choices that I made. And that's the growth that I made, is I understand that these are the choices that I made. But just things progressed, right? And then meth. And then I did a line of meth, and it was like, oh, dude, this is the greatest thing ever. And it was like, it was. And I found out very quickly that I had a bunch of friends that liked to use meth. And I found out very quickly that I could collect all of their money and go buy meth and get my meth for free. And then that started to interfere with my real job. So I'm like, well, I'll just take all the money that I have from my real job and just buy all the meth that I could buy and sell to my friends at a profit. And so then I was hooked. I was completely hooked on that. Not only was I able to survive and live and all of the things that come with being, at the time we didn't call it a plug, now they call it a plug, but all of those things. But it was like justification, manipulating myself. And so it's like, okay, I'm making a living. I'm not putting my friends in a position to have to go do certain things, right? To have to get the drugs, especially women, right? And things like that. So in my mind, I'm doing you a service by this. And then I'll get a bunch, and then I'll give you some, and I'll show you how you can be of service to somebody else by selling them drugs and supporting yourself on drugs, right? And so I just created this the business side of it. And I did that for a few years. And then in 2004, I got caught up in what could have been a federal indictment in Colorado Springs that included 9 states and all of those things. Fortunately, this is one of those God things. My higher power is looking out. Fortunately for me, I got caught up walking up to the dope house in the middle of the bust, and I had 1.5 grams of real meth, crank, essentially, in my pocket. And the conversations that took place was like, they're showing me pictures. Do you know this guy and this guy? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm just here, I'm a drug addict type thing, and I knew I was hit because the drugs are in my pocket. And they're like, oh, well, here's a picture of you with that guy. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. It just must have been on accident. I just really don't know who that is, right? So anyways, I was able to catch a felony. And at the time, drug felonies didn't exist. It was an F4. It was literally an F4. Anything over 1 gram was an F4. But I had never been in trouble, so I got probation. And I got sober. I went to...
You got a picture of yourself, too. I remember in APD I had that, and they took a picture of me when I was really, really heavy.
Yeah.
And by the time they got me, I was just a rail.
So
they showed me a picture of myself. Do you know this guy? And they had no idea it was me. I was like, I have no idea who that is.
Yeah. No, they knew it was me, but it was like there was nothing. It was just like in passing. It wasn't like we were walking together or anything like that. And to be fair, I didn't even really know, like, the name that they asked me that was his name was not the name I knew him by. So I was like, absolutely not. Plus I had just I'd just gotten high. So I was like, I'm super high right now anyway, dude. So like, I don't feel comfortable, blah, blah, blah. And so they arrested me, whatever I got, but I was just a small fish in what they were really doing and things like that. So it worked out, but it was like eye-opening enough for me to get sober. So from jail, call my parents. What should I do? What should I go? I don't really want to be doing this anymore. And so they helped me get into the Pine House, which was an Alano club down in Colorado Springs. It was a men's sober living at the time, $325 a month. Covered everything. That's how long ago that was. Got a sponsor, started working some
You're
steps.
the pioneer of sober living.
Yeah, the Pine House. Yeah, it was like Coit Shirley and Dick Law, rest their souls, they're both have passed since then. But
I heard a lot of good stuff about that.
It was great. I mean, we had this huge house, 616 North Pine Street. I don't know what it is now, but there was like 26 of us in that house, and it was great, smoky. Like you walk in and you just smoke, dude, cigarette smoke everywhere. But we had a men's, we had a meeting on Thursday nights, like an open AA meeting, and you had to do 90 and 90, you know, the whole gambit, right? But I got a sponsor, and it worked out, you know, and I from there, I was able to put together like 10 years of sobriety. Throughout this process, I had, or prior to getting sober that time, you know, I had a son with a young lady, you know, and he wasn't in my life, you know, at the time. But like, I didn't get sober for him. Like, I was like, oh, I don't know where he's at. They don't want anything to do with me, you know, right? Catastrophizing everything that I did and like future tripping, right? It's gonna be okay. I just need to get sober. I need to get my shit taken care of and work through my life, right? And so I did that and moved out of the Pine House successfully, which was great. Got my own apartment, got a really good job, and lo and behold, I get a Facebook message of my son's mom. My son was 4.5 years old, and she's like going through a breakup, and she was, you know, didn't have a stable housing situation, and she's like, do you want to see your son again? And I'm like, yeah, are you kidding me? I was like, absolutely. And it turned into, well, I'm bringing your son with all of his clothes, and we're dropping him off. And she dropped him off at my parents' house in Colorado Springs when they lived there at the time. And like, I was shaking. Like, I couldn't get off work fast enough to get over there and to see him, you know. And this was like the last time I'd seen him, he was like a year old and like walking around and barely talking, and because he started walking at a young age, and here he was, this 4.5-year-old kid that could wipe his own ass. Like, he was like a grown up to me, you know. And so I was like, okay, well, now I really got to stay sober, right? You know, and I did, and I raised him pretty much by myself. I mean, his mom was around. She met a new guy who is awesome. She's married to this guy and has another kid with him and stuff like that. And it worked out, and we co-parented, and things were really good for a long time. Doing the AA thing, going to meetings, sponsoring guys, you know, getting AA tattoos, you know, as I hit these milestones of recovery and like things like that. And
did you get the cork for the bottle?
I didn't. No, I got the I am responsible though, like the hand of AA, and then I've got the triangle in an hourglass on this side, and you know, just a couple little things, you know. And then I got really super involved with like CCPAW, which is the Colorado Conference for Young People with Alcoholics Anonymous, and yeah, and I was part of the group in Colorado Springs when we did it in Colorado Springs at the Hotel Agante now, or something else now, but that's where it was at. Was there
Hotel Agante?
But it wasn't that at the time. I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was. Yeah, El Escante is what we called it.
That's exactly what we called
Nani
it.
knows. She's
It's funny because, you know, we have all our recovery events and our treatment center conventions there. It was like so toxic. So just a quick story.
Oh, nice.
There's a place called the Orleans in Vegas. So they have the conference in Orleans. It's in the worst casino in Las Vegas. I hate to tell you that. I'm sorry if I know you, owner. I apologize, but there's a thing called the Blade in front. That's where all the working girls are at. It was so toxic. You had to go downstairs to smoke. And after every break, me and Nani were laughing our butts off because every addict went to the slot machine.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like, and you know how NA people are like Muppets.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody's cheering everybody on, and the machines are going, and they're screaming like they're watching a football game and smoking like 5 packs of cigarettes before they got to go back to the next event.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you just go down the stairs and you just see everybody like that.
Yes.
But it was like, man,
So awesome.
how do we pick these hotels?
Yeah.
Dude, I know, right? Well, it's because of the ones that we can afford, right?
Exactly.
Newly in recovery, we don't really have a lot of money, you know, especially if you're working a program and you got this stupid 9-step thing where you got to call the people that you sold the salt and pepper shakers off the table at the restaurant and be like, listen, I did this, so what do I owe you? You know what I mean? Type thing.
And I do like gambling at the Orleans. You just got to be tight wrapped to be in the Orleans.
Right. So things are going really well, you know. You know, I was hitting goals. I bought a house, like legitimately, and And then like the last couple years of my sobriety, I had an opportunity to, not last couple years, probably the last year of my sobriety, I had an opportunity to distribute weed on the weekends. And I'm like, oh, it's weed. I don't smoke weed. We're good. Like, you know, I want to make this extra money. You know, I got goals, right? I'm raising a kid by myself.
But
like,
you've been sober like 9 years.
Right. And I got, right? It's like I got. I didn't think about consequences. I didn't think about, I got a 10-year-old, right?
Or being sober for 9 years.
And his mom living in New Mexico. None of that. I stopped sponsoring guys. I stopped going to meetings. You know, really. I'd go to like for anniversaries for a couple friends. I'd go to mine, you know, things like that. Go to, you know, to you know, the Alcathon for New Year's Eve, go get seen, right? Like, look at me, I've got all this time type shit, right? And that's what I would, that's how I was. Like, it became all about me. And so I started, you know, doing these things, and I started making these turn and burns is what we call them. I'd run to Omaha, run back, just Omaha, run back. You know, I had a partner that was a retired Air Force Academy graduate with a Purple Heart, and disabled, right? So he had one vehicle that had disabled veteran plates, another vehicle that was Purple Heart plates, so he never got pulled over. You know, we have 40, 50 pounds of weed in the trunk. You know, never got pulled over, not once. You know, never got messed with.
The dare sticker works, huh?
Well, disabled veteran and Purple Heart, right?
Yeah.
So we got this going on, and I mean, it was the money and the money and the money, and then that bled into me selling weed at work, you know, because I had a job where I could do that. You know, because I worked in a call center and everybody smokes weed, whatever, right? And so, well, then the job interfered with making runs to Nebraska. And so, you know, I was making 10 racks on the weekends going to Nebraska. And so I was like, why wouldn't I just, you know, make another run? You know, my son's going to his mom's on the weekends. I'm doing it without him around and things like that. Well, all of that ego and all of that getting away from the things that afforded me the things, right? Letting the gifts that gave me the gifts go away, right? I started thinking, they're like, you know, and I remember the person in Omaha, they're like, well, hey, can you get cocaine? So I went back and talked to my partners, and we made a couple phone calls. And before I knew it, I'm in Dallas. And I'm down there dealing with, you know, Cubans. And I don't speak the language, but my buddy did, I was with. And, you know, we are new to the scene, right, in Dallas. So then they send us here. They send us there. What was supposed to be a 24-hour trip turned into a 4-day trip. And then we brought back a brick, and then it was over. And then it was on. You know, while we were down there, you know, it was fortunately for me, I didn't have to use in front of them. But it was very shortly after that I went out drinking to celebrate my birthday, and then I got a DUI. So I relapsed on September 13th, 2015. I turned 37 on September 14th, 2015, and I got a DUI at 2 a.m. on September 14th, 2015. And rather than be like, holy crap, dude, I need to get my poop in a group, right? I didn't. I was like, okay, I need to start making arrangements for my son. And there's another one of those higher power things. I knew that things were not okay. So I started like thinking in my mind, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to do this. Well, my son took it upon himself the weekend before Halloween. So approximately 6 weeks later, at school, went to a teacher, and essentially because he didn't feel safe at home, and so he said that he wanted to hurt himself, and so he went. So of course, they're mandatory things that they have to do. So he went into a 72-hour hold there, and of course his mom lived in New Mexico, so of course I had to call his mom, had to get the whole family involved, because you have to, right? It's your kid. You have to at this point. He was 12 years old, 12 years old, and he didn't come home from the facility to my home. he went to his mom's home in New Mexico. That 100%, absolutely 1,000% was the right decision, but it destroyed me. So that was the end of October. By Thanksgiving, I had picked up a lot, of cocaine. I had a bottle of Bullet bourbon. I took my dog, George, who was my pit bull, a gun to the top of Mount Baldy in Colorado Springs with no intentions of coming down that mountain. Apparently, I had enough blow to keep me up for 3 days because I was up there for 3 days. And I couldn't shoot my dog. I was going to take my dog out, and I was going to go out. I had written a note and everything like that, and I drank all the booze, and did all the drugs, and I couldn't do it. And of course, I'm sitting there, and I'm a mess. My dog's licking my face, licking the tears off of my face, and for 3 days, my phone I had gotten no phone calls, no text messages. And then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, I get a phone call from a friend. He's like, "Hey man, I haven't seen you in a few days. What's going on? And he's like, "I need something. I need to see you. I need something." Right? He's one of those type of friends. And I was like, "Oh yeah, dude, I got you. I'm away. I'll come down." And I came down that mountain from that, and that phone call saved my life. Really, probably,
And your dog.
And my dog. Oh yeah, George was great. He died at 14 while I was incarcerated, on purpose, because there's no way he would have died if I was alive. He wouldn't have done that to me. He was a great dog. I miss him a lot. But I came down the mountain, and and I made a decision on the way down that mountain that I was like, well, I don't have the guts, I don't have the balls to shoot myself. I can't do it, and I can't leave my dog around. Nobody could. This is my dog, like absolutely my. You get those dogs that are just your dogs, Mm-hmm. And so I made a decision on the way down. I'll just kill myself with the drugs. I'll just stop messing with the cocaine because I'm wasting my money, and I'll just go buy a pound of meth. I didn't know how much it was. I didn't know how I was gonna find it, but I because the people I was messing with didn't mess with it. But I made the decision to do that, and I came down that mountain, and I got on Colorado back pages, and I was like, hookers know. Hookers definitely know where to get meth, right? And so I went through, and I found the most sucked in Skeletor looking hooker, and I'm like, this broad is gonna know where to find some meth. And so I show up there, and at the motel on the west side of Colorado Springs at the Amarillo.
I've been to the Amarillo.
Yeah,
right off the highway there.
It's gnarly, bro. And I go in there, and I was definitely the cleanest thing in there. And I say, listen, I'm not here to sleep with you. Like, no disrespect. I need to find some shit. I'm like, here, I got some blow. You know what I mean? To show you, I'll do it in front of you. You could do some. You could have it. Just call your dude. I know you get high. I want to get high. And so she did. She called this dude, and I spent about 4 times as much for an 8-ball that I should have, because it had been since crank days that I bought, meth. And so I was used to an 8-ball costing $125, right? $50 turns out. So is what it should have cost. But anyways, I paid $125 for an 8-ball. I was like, oh yeah, here we go. This is it. So I'm like, cool. So I did that. And a few days later, I hit this dude up and just kept increasing the amount that I was buying, and went to Craigslist personals and just put P2P, which is play to party or party to play or whatever. I Googled to see how I was going to do it, and then that's how I built my clientele to get back into it. And that's what I did. And
You're pretty slutty, aren't you?
It's Will Chamberlain type numbers, bro. It's gross. It's gross. I'm just grateful at 45 it still works. And at DRDC, it's funny, when I went to prison at DRDC, I thought for sure I had Hep C, right? Because I'm an IV drug user. I was an IV drug user, and they called me back in after they pull your blood, and I'm like, shit, here we go. It's gonna be Hep C, right? We go in there and they're like, oh, you got chlamydia, and I'm like, what's that? And they're like, it's sexually transmitted disease, blah, blah, blah. It's not syphilis. It could lead to syphilis. They give me the whole rundown. I'm like, well, what do we got to do? Is it forever? They're like, no, you take these 4 pills. And I'm like, how many times? They're like, just this time. And I'm like, high five. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, are you kidding me? I was like, I haven't used a rubber since the 90s. And I sleep with prostitutes and shoot dope. Like, are you kidding me? And then I just have chlamydia. I was like, this is, I must have
this is amazing.
That tiger blood, right? Like, my blood. So, obviously when COVID comes around, I wasn't worried about that. My blood kills Hep C and AIDS, right? So, but yeah, so I that's what I went through. Like, that's how I built it. And then things started just to evolve. I was still doing the weed thing. My clientele to weed went from, I was picking up pounds of marijuana and Coos Bay, North Bend, Oregon, on the West Coast, because they had that big influx. I don't know if you remember when you get pounds for $400 to $500. I had a press out there, so I went out there and I was pressing it and sending that in 1 ounce cards to Nebraska for $800 an ounce. I was buying pound for $400 to $500, and I was getting 4 ounces of basically of wax. Essentially, it's keef. And sending it out there and getting 800 an ounce free. So I was flipping my money and I didn't even have to leave, but I was also picking those up because then I could run all the way to South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and drop pounds for $2,600 a piece. So it was like, here I was, and I was off to the races. Mm-hmm. No job, no responsibilities, put all my stuff in storage. And I just, hitting every single casino. We were talking about this earlier. I can tell you where all the casinos are. The ones in Kansas, the ones in, there's this cool one in Metropolis. It's literally called Metropolis. It's on the Ohio River in Kentucky, right? They're on riverboats. You literally walk across. It's like this far from land to a boat, but they're attached by rubber, but they're considered riverboat casinos. And I just would hit each one of them on the way back and forth. And I don't even know. I never won anything, ever. Like we were talking about this earlier. Like I just blew money, but it was like I was coming back from South Carolina. Like you can only Walmart to Walmart so much money back before you raise red flags. And this was when you could still do that. You can't do that the way that we were doing it back then, or Western Union or any of that stuff. But I couldn't travel back across the country with $75,000. I couldn't do it. Like there was no way. I mean, what if I got pulled over? And again, I had no license because I got this DUI, and so, and it was me and a girl driving back and forth. And,
I think that was a blessing because it's only so much you get a W-2 now for gambling. So
right.
You didn't really want to wash in a casino.
No, absolutely not. And so what I did do though, was when I got back and I started using meth heavily, I lost the weed stuff. The guys doing the weed were like, dude, you're too much, right? They took a step back. So then at my station, my home base was back in the Springs. And so I opened up a tattoo shop so I could launder money through a tattoo shop. So the tattoo artist would just write down whatever they'd collect for the day, and I'd take 50% of it, deposit it into the account because I paid them 50%. And then just did that. And so I had an income, technically, but I was all over 7 years ago, so it was all over the statute of limitations, right? But I actually, but the crazy part about it is I paid taxes on it. To be clear. Yeah. But I paid taxes on it, so the government profited off of what I was doing, But so that was going on, right? Well, doing just the meth, and then that led to selling heroin. Because
probably ingenious, because washing it, you're going to pay a tax, but it's not going to be a state.
Right.
Colorado tax is going to be way more than that.
Here's the fun part, right? It was still only half.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then my business enterprise, if you will, grew from meth to heroin and to all of the things. Right. The 3-ring circus, is really what it is. And I knew, like, again, another God thing that happened to me is I knew that messing with guns and heroin that's what was gonna get me caught up.
Yeah.
You know, and it sure was.
It's amazing how a gun can change the
But you had
the
to
narrative,
have one.
huh? Yeah.
Not because it was cool, because it was the culture. It was the world that I lived in.
Yeah.
You know, once people know that you carry a pistol, this is something that I learned. Once people know that you carry a pistol, if they have a problem with you, they're always coming strapped, no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. To this day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to this day, people still think that I'm packing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was packing through basically high school through my 30s. So people that don't know and don't listen to the radio and don't know what I'm doing and still out in that life, they still think I'm strapped.
And they probably always will.
Yeah.
Let them. You know, I mean, that's on them. You know, all we could do is what we could do today, right?
Yeah.
But so all of those things, and you know, and man, I was so done. I was so done, and I was so miserable in what I was doing. The drugs weren't doing what they were. I didn't really use. I used opiates. I used heroin from time to time, but I didn't like it, so I didn't really mess with it. Another one of those higher power things, because people have a hard time getting off of that. I'm grateful that it wasn't something that grabbed a hold of me. But it, like the women I was involved with, it had them by their deepest being of their soul, 100%. And
it feels bad, huh? Just when you know that,
dude, so bad.
You know that you just helped destroy this person in front of you.
Yeah, no, 100%. That is not who I am today.
Definitely
what I
not.
did then does not define me today. But I mean, I definitely have some ways to go to, in my mind, to correct that for my soul, for me. But so all these things happen, and so lo and behold, I get told on. Didn't know that I was told on, but it doesn't matter. Put myself in a position to be told on, and cops showed up. And they go, well, first let me tell you about the Bob thing real quick. So my name is Will. People used to call me Big Will because I'm a big dude. So I go and I get this gun from somebody, trade him real quick. It's a real quick transaction. So then I'm driving, right? And sitting at a stoplight at Uinta in North Nevada. It's 3:45 in the afternoon on a Friday, rush hour traffic in August. And it's a pistol pouch. So I go to unzip it, right? In this vehicle, it's in my lap, and I go unzip it, and I notice that the hammer's all the way cocked and that it's a revolver. And the next thing I know, it goes off. Boom. Like, scared. I didn't know what happened, right? Like, I was in shock. I didn't realize that I just shot myself in the leg. The whole car is filled up with smoke and paper because it's a black powder gun. Again, a God thing, because it was point blank range in my leg, cauterized the wound as the pellets went through. So it wasn't a bullet. It was pellets, right? It was a replica, like 1867 Magnum 44 Magnum replica. So it was so hot and it was point blank range, but I shot myself in the leg. So I'm sitting there, and of course I look around. My windows are up, AC's blasting because it's 1,000,000 degrees outside. Plus, at the time I was so high, I was sweating in the snow. But so it goes off, and I'm like, holy crap! And I'm on my way to the homie's house, and I call him, and I'm like, hey man, just so you know, this punk ass white boy just shot me in the leg, right? And I'm making jokes because that's what I do, right? That's when I'm uncomfortable. And he goes, I'll call the homies. We'll go. Who was it? And I was like, nah, bro, it was me. I just shot myself in the leg. I'm on my way to your house. And he goes, okay, are you by yourself? I was like, yeah. So dude comes out, and this was a dude that did like 15 years of coke at charge. He's an old school Norteño dude or not Norteño, but like a Nazi lowrider Mexican dude from the north side of Denver. And like, he's my buddy, right? And he comes out, and I didn't know how tatted he was, right? Dude comes out in a wife beater, and he's fully tatted, has a yellow apron, like a kitchen apron, and yellow gloves on, because he doesn't know what he's walking into, right? And he comes out, and and it blew through my leg, and he helps me inside, and his son's there like scared to death. This son was like 18 years old. His big pozole pot full of boiling water, and he's stripping sheets, right? Because he's thinking, the worst. And fortunately, it cauterized the wound. And anyways, it stopped bleeding in the 15 minutes it took me to get there. Dressed me up, whatever, gave him what he wanted, told him no charge. You know what I mean? I'm on my way. And so from then, he's like, dude, you're like Cheddar Bob. And I'm like, oh.
That's amazing.
I was like, dude, first of all, I know a dude named Cheddar from West Side Denver. You might, anyways, some people might know who he is. And I'm like, I'm not that dude. Just drop that. We'll just go with Bob. Because whatever, big white dude named Bob, right? That's real inconspicuous. So that's where Bob came from. The reason I keep it is to remind myself of where I came from.
Gotcha.
I'm not that dude anymore, but I am Bob, right? I am a new Bob. I'm a different person today. So that's why I keep it. I got, a hole in my leg. Not anymore. It healed up perfectly. Never went to the hospital or anything like that. But so anyways, so I got told, so that's where Bob comes from. But I got told on, I got arrested, and I was so thankful for that. I knew I was going to prison. I was like, cool. Just don't look at the camper. I thought to myself, well, they looked in the camper. So I ended up getting more time because of what was in the camper. They ended up, Colorado Springs Police Department, they have this thing they do down there called prosecutorial leverage, to where the best way I know how to describe it, to be like, oh, that looks like a new TV. Do you have a receipt for that? Oh, you don't? I bet you stole it. And then you got to prove you didn't, right? They do stuff like that. They throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and see what sticks. But essentially, of the 26 charges they charged me with, I copped the 3. They dropped the possession of methamphetamines with intent to distribute, which I had like 72 grams. They took all the money I had, was like $1,500. The 2 pistols that I had, the half a gram of heroin, which is what I copped to, distribution on heroin because it was sitting next to a bunch of baggies and a scale. But they got a heroin conviction rather than a meth conviction, and another gun. So they convicted me. I got copped to 5 years, Department of Corrections. And it was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. It gave me a reason to leave the business. It gave me a reason to leave the game. And it gave me something happened in my mind and in my soul. Like, I was done. And I went to prison and just saw the old timers there, a bunch of people there that were that would never leave prison and things like that. And just had a spiritual thing, happen to me. And I spent a total of, because of the way that it works, I spent a total of 11 months behind the walls on a 5-year sentence. And then I went to community corrections. And again, at community corrections, it was flooded with drugs. And I just didn't want to do it.
You got cheated, though. Like, you had a great story on how you got your nickname, but you got Bob.
Yeah.
Like, some people, like, nowadays, they pick this really creative name that they didn't earn.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Then you find out that they gave it to themselves. And like, what?
Yeah.
But you had an amazing experience, and you got Bob.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay.
It's great, though, but I love it. But you still just got Bob.
Well, it says, my friend Ginger always says, remember that commercial where it's like, it's Bob had a baby, it's a boy.
Yeah.
Because you can do the old MCI commercials. Yeah. So when I call Ginger, who's my family, she always answers the phone. Not always, but answers the phone that way sometimes.
And if you're hearing us, we love you, Ginger.
Absolutely.
Get well.
Please do, yes.
We're gonna miss you while you're away, your smiles and everything, but our prayers are with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Much love, Ginger.
And so, this thing happened, and so I went to community corrections, and then again, another higher power, my higher power intervened when I was there. I had an opportunity to go on ISPI, and a buddy that I worked with, who actually is in prison right now, lived in a pine house, lived in an Oxford sober living in Colorado Springs.
You're about to say a pineapple.
I was going to say pine house again, yeah, but no.
I thought you said a pineapple. I was like, are we in SpongeBob?
But he's like, I was like, dude, I'm not going back, because the pine house, it was like they tell you what to do. Yeah. I'm like, I'm done with people telling me what to do, right?
Yeah. I
was resistant to that because no, it's cool. It's like, come check it out. And Crash is one of my brothers, one of my chosen brothers that's out there, and he got me started at the Oxford Sober Living, and I got in there, and I knew that I needed to be of service, right, for my previous recovery. And so I started going to the chapter meetings, and I raised my hand to get involved with reentry, because I was like, I want to help people get out of prison, you know. And coming in when I was in prison, I didn't know anything about sober living, you know, at the time, other than my previous experience. I knew nothing about Tribe, nothing about like Aurora Sober Living. Shout out to them. Nothing about Oxford House Sober Living, you know, Hazelbrook, any of those, right? I didn't know, you know, those are the ones I could think of off the top of my head. There's so many of them out there that do such great work, and they, you know. But I didn't know any of those things. So I'm like, I need to bring a message into the prison, into the bros, into the people in there that want to change, right? Yeah. And so that's what I did. I got involved with the reentry program with Oxford Sober Living, and they offered me a job at Oxford House, a paying job. Not much, but it paid enough, and it wasn't about that at the time, you know. And I got to go back to the yards, and I got to go see people that I used to get high with, that I used to do dirt with. They saw me, right? So instantly they knew, like, this dude's legit, right? Because we've done stuff with him. They know my name's good in and out of prison, right? Like, you know, because that's an important thing. You know, there's something to it, right? Yeah. You guys understand that, right? And so I was able to help people, and they were able to see me, and they were able to see me do well. Throughout this recovery process, at that time, I realized that my first drug of choice happened to be food. Weird, right? 5 years old, I'm stealing bags of chips and hiding the wrappers. So I took action, just like with my drug and alcohol and my substance use. I took action against my food addiction. And since July of 2022, so just over a year ago, I've lost 140 pounds.
That's awesome.
So, but I'm not done yet. I'm actually recommitting on Friday. I'm starting CrossFit at the Phoenix again, because I've plateaued. I've kind of lost as much as I think I can on my own. So I'm going to go do some group fitness. But
awesome, man.
But you know, that recovery led me to working at Tribe, which I help the people coming out of jail, which is amazing. I also work at Denver Health, and I'm a peer-to-peer support for people that do what we do. I'm there to support them, which is an amazing work. So I work both jobs, ride a Harley, got a dog. The biggest thing that I had to learn, and I'm still learning this, we talked about expectations before this, right, of others and ourselves. The biggest thing that I had to learn, and I'm still learning, is that I have to learn how to love myself and be accepting of myself and realistic expectations of myself, the way that I love you, the way that I can forgive you. And that's really hard, right? That's those expectations where we set people up to, so that, you know, people now don't live up to our expectations, or we don't live up to our own. It's like, I have to learn how to love myself the way that I love you, which is unconditionally.
Yeah. And you know, it's in recovery, I wish a lot more people would understand that concept, because, you know, the expectation thing and just relationships in a whole can ruin everything. You just got to accept that person for being that person, and this is the way it is, you know. And we can get really, really judgmental in recovery, you know, and it's we'll put lipstick on a pig real quick and not even do the work behind it, and it's terrifying to get in recovery, but then also at the same time it's freeing, right? Getting to where you need to be. Congratulations on all that. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, I mean, you know, like we were talking about before, some of my fondest memories never happened.
Yeah.
And then you hear stories like yours, and you get the realization of the memories that you had, and you feel thankful after you hear a story like yours that there is hope. There's things, you know. So how's your son doing nowadays?
That's a work in progress. He's in the Air Force. He's 19 years old. He has a son. He's married. I have no contact.
Okay.
I know that if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'll be ready when he's ready.
Awesome.
I get it.
If I'm using, I'll lose him forever.
Yep.
Potentially. So, I'm not sober for him. I am sober so that I can be ready to meet him again and to meet my grandson.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
When they're ready.
My first sponsor told me, don't ever be sober for a person, and don't be sober in spite of a person.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice.
Yeah, it is. And well, I really hope that happens for you. It'll be in my prayers for you, for
Thank
sure.
you.
Mile High, our guest today has been Bob Schulz, William, but AKA Bob. And I really thank you, and I commend you, and thanks for coming in and speaking. Truly
Thank you.
appreciate you. Appreciate you so much. Mile High, this is Sharing Our Stories. It is brought to you by Tribe Recovery Homes. If you want to meet Tomas and his team, you can go to triberecoveryhomes.com. You can also call them at 720-60-TRIBE. That's 720-608-7423. This program is also brought to you in part with thanks to Caring for Denver. Special thanks to Caring for Denver. You know, there are so many resources available to help with addiction and substance misuse recovery, and Caring for Denver is the organization that helps our recovery community stay connected to better assist our Denver community. And if you want to find some resources through Caring for Denver, you can text SOS to 303-597-1015. That's SOS to 303-597-1015, and we'll get you in touch with some great resources right now. Want to thank Bob Schulz once again for being our guest. Thank you to Tribe Recovery Homes, Nani, and Tomas. Appreciate you guys, and we will see you again next week right here, Mile High, for Sharing Our Stories.